When the sun goes down, the stars come out. From deep in the heart of Texas, it's The Star at Night. Coming to you from the Cowboys facility at The Star in Frisco. With your hosts, Kelsey Charles and David Hellman.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Star at Night. I'm your host, Kelsey Charles, and I am joined by the one and only David Hellman, breaking down that wild Atlanta Falcons game. Happy Victory Monday.
Look at my face. I've had this look stuck on my face for the last 27 hours. I don't even know what to do anymore. I think it gets crazier. It gets crazier the further away we get from the game, and I can actually process that the Cowboys basically were the exception to a 99.9 percentile math equation. I don't know. My brain's broken.
I think the odds are something along the lines of 400 to and 1 that the Cowboys could actually win a game like that. And yet
440 teams have scored 39 points and not turned the ball over. And the Falcons are the first ones in the history of recorded football to not win the game. I don't want to hear anything else ever again from Cowboy fans that are like, we never get the breaks. Nothing ever goes our way. You just got all the breaks in one afternoon. It all happened at once.
So obviously Dave feels very strongly about the statistical anomaly that the Dallas Cowboys were able to pull out yesterday. That wasn't the only crazy statistic that we were witness to. The first quarter, absolute insanity. Dak Prescott single-handedly putting the team on his back, the first NFL player in history to score 3 rushing touchdowns and throw over 400 passing yards. 40 burger in the house. I'm trying to think. The storylines were abundant. You were there in person, Dave.
Yes.
Which one is top of mind for you? Let's dive in.
Here's what's top of mind for me. I've already said this today. It doesn't matter. It bears repeating. That's your quarterback. And look, I know the Atlanta Falcons probably aren't that good. Their defense is Swiss cheese. It's still the NFL. It's still a 3-possession hole that your quarterback just clawed you out of. Dak Prescott has done that so many times during the course of his career, but because of a very star-crossed 2019 season, everybody's sort of lost sight of that fact. You know, you come up short against the Patriots and on the road at the Eagles and the Saints. It all breaks bad for Dak in one season, and everybody just wants to pretend like it's not the same guy who dug them out of fourth quarter holes time and time again in 2018 and as a rookie. The guy can do it. So it's so nice that here in September, we've already bunked that narrative that the guy can't climb over the hill. And oh, by the way, thank freaking God it happened, because you're looking at 0-2 against a possible MVP. Like, Russell Wilson might actually win the MVP if his first 2 weeks are any indication of what's going to come. So to say they needed it is a drastic understatement. And that's I get the onside kick and the 2-point conversion. But that's what matters. What matters is that you avoided that hole, and your badass quarterback is the one that did it. So, what's up, 4?
Drop the mic.
Sorry.
I agree with everything you said. Obviously, Dak Prescott, that was redeeming. Not even redeeming, but I just feel like he helped silence some of the haters. Anyone who doubted him, anyone who questioned his clutch gene or any semblance of ability that some other quarterback in the NFL may have. What more could you ask for from your starting quarterback? Dave, I also want to talk about
a Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, well,
that's what the haters are. That's what the haters are going to say. But go ahead. I digress.
It's true. I also want to know, though. I came out of that game. Are we Dalton Schultz stands now? Where are we at in the tight end conversation? He was fighting really hard to make sure that Will McClay and team did not go and search the streets. I'm not sure he's 100% the solution just yet, but he was making a pretty hefty case for himself on Sunday.
we're not stands. We're not ready to be stands. Like, we throw around the phrase "stand" too often
We're
in
getting close.
2020.
We're getting close.
We are pleasantly surprised by what we saw from Dalton Schultz. It was a very nice performance on his part. It's one game. I want to see a little bit more. You know, that this is a team that has a mural of a tight end hanging in its facility. It's like 30 feet tall, big shoes to fill. But I thought it was a nice start. I thought it was a nice start for Dalton Schultz to get things back on track after a rough week 1. But all right, I basically just took up this entire segment. You were watching from your couch, no disrespect. But there is a different perspective we can get from a guy who had a very unique seat at AT&T on Sunday. We are going to talk to him when we come back right after this.
Hey there, everybody. Kyle Yeomans here with DallasCowboys.com, and I encourage all of you Cowboys fans out there to check out Talking Cowboys. The podcast is every week live on the website and on all social platforms at 9:30 every weekday morning. We've got myself alongside Isaiah Stanback, who's actually won one of those during his playing career as a former Dallas Cowboy. He won it with the Giants, but we'll forgive him for that. We've also got Heckma Harrison along with Dallas Cowboys insider Rob Phillips. It's a ton of fun every weekday morning at 9:30. Check it out on DallasCowboys.com.
Today we know that you were at the Dallas Cowboys game this past weekend, but another big name was in the house, and that'd be one former Cowboys great, Daryl Johnston, current broadcaster for Fox Sports. Daryl, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
So obviously a bit of a different environment this season. Granted, you've been doing this for about 20 plus years in the booth, at least. We know you have a new partner. That's exciting. So lots of changes in that regard. But let's talk about the concept of COVID and having no fans at your first week 1 game with Philadelphia and the Washington football team. And then week 2, you had about 25% capacity. What's it been like dealing with the NFL in this pandemic type era? Talk to us.
The most challenging part is not being able to attend the training camp practices. I'm sure you can. There's probably some things we could have done to kind of force the issue a little bit, but not having really had the opportunity to see some of the teams that we were going to cover early in the season in person at camp makes that a little bit challenging. The fact that we had no preseason, which especially with a new group, you'd love to have one opportunity to do a game and get accustomed to the style, the pace, the chemistry, and we were not able to do that because there was no preseason. So Kevin and I kind of hit the ground running week 1 with Philly and Washington, and walked away, with kind of mixed emotions. Good for the first time out, not having had the opportunity to work together, but we knew that there was a lot of room for improvement for us. So I think we took a nice step yesterday in the Cowboys-Falcons game, and hopefully we'll continue to do that week to week as we progress through the season.
So, Daryl, I feel like I can relate to you a lot in this circumstance in a game like yesterday's. Obviously, the joke for a writer is that you've got to delete your story like 5 times. But that's like after the game is over, whereas you guys, you come into these games with things you want to touch on, storylines you want to talk about. I have to imagine you kind of had to scrap some of that when it's 20-0 after 1 quarter. And then you probably have to scrap it 5 or 6 times with all the swings in the second half. So I would just love some detail on how you navigate a game with so many ridiculous swings like the one we watched yesterday.
Yeah, the biggest thing is not to give up on either side during the course of the game. And I remember talking to Troy about that with the Atlanta-New England Super Bowl. And I asked him, I said, at any point did you feel like the game was over? And he said, oh my gosh, at 28-3, late in the third quarter. Absolutely. And I was like, wow, that is awesome, because you could not tell by the broadcast that you actually felt that Atlanta was going to be able to control that game and finish out and win. So it was awesome, the way that you guys were able to kind of spin and return to that game with New England making a huge comeback. So I've always had that in the back of my mind. I've always felt that any team can come back from any deficit. And we came onto the air talking about the offensive talent that was on the field. So whether Atlanta went down, and Matt Ryan was very outspoken about that during the course of the week, that they felt that there was no lead that was insurmountable for them. You look at the talent on the Dallas team, I would think that they would feel exactly the same way. So we knew not to give up on one side or the other. So we kind of just shifted on, okay, why is Dallas fumbling the ball so much in the first quarter? And it was really good play by the Atlanta defenders. Especially Foye Oluokun, he did a tremendous job, causing 2 of those fumbles. So there's always the opportunity to talk about, good things, and we'd like to focus from that perspective. I really felt that Dak was the one that you're trying to make something happen when there's really nothing there. But I felt Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, had good ball security when they had the ball punched out from him. I thought that Dalton Schultz as well. So, it was just, there were things to talk about. I think maybe at the end of the game, we got into the fact that Matt Ryan had never started out his career 0-2 with the Atlanta Falcons, and there was opportunities to, and probably didn't do a good job of coming back and closing that one up a little bit nicer. There's some people that might say, well, don't forget about the end of the game. I think, down 15 with about, 6 minutes to go, you were trending in that direction. So, but it was amazing. It really was. It was one of those games where you sat there in the booth afterwards and you're like, wow, how did that just happen? And you're just trying to, remember those last 4 minutes and what were the key plays where Atlanta had opportunities to put it away and they couldn't do it. And Dallas was able to hang in there and give themselves a chance.
So I'm sure you've seen a lot of games from your perspective in the booth that have been some crazy swings. What about going back to your playing career? Do you have any that kind of mirror this experience from the Atlanta and Dallas game this past weekend that you can think off the top of your head?
Yeah, I've got 2 of them, one from each perspective. Unfortunately, one was a very big game. We fell behind to the San Francisco 49ers 21-0 in the first quarter, and our rallying cry was, hey, we can get back into this. The good news is there's only 6 minutes gone in the game, and we're down 21-0. So we were just god-awful to start that game. And we never could get back inside a double-digit lead. There was an opportunity there where we were going to cut it to 6. And then we had the infamous pass interference that was not called on Deion Sanders, which he obviously did interfere with Michael Irvin, but that's another topic for discussion at another time. And then we also, the Washington Redskins, I think 1998, it may have been the opening game of the year. And I think it was my last game, so it would have been 99. We were down 21, I think, in the third quarter, and we were just not throwing the football well, but we were running it well. And we came to the sideline and said, hey, we got to get back into this game. And the only way we're going to do that today is running the football. I know that sounds unconventional, but that's going to give us our best opportunity to win the game. And we were able to get back into it. We tied it up, and then we actually won the game in overtime. So I've been a part of 2 of those games, trying to get back out of a big hole. One time we made it and one time we didn't. But it's really challenging. And, I think today when you look at some of the analytics, I think it would be great to go back to some of those games that are like that historically and kind of see how they played out and what were some of the trends that happened and how often and were the teams going for it on fourth down. I know there's a lot of things that people are doing with analytics today, but are they using it off of football-based references, or are we using just a typical structure for analytics? Because I think the game of football and its subtle nuances would really impact the way that some of this final data would come out.
I'm really fascinated. I know we're going to let you go in a minute, but I'm fascinated by that point because I think it's so interesting. You're calling a game yesterday where, Mike McCarthy goes for 2 in a game where he has a chance to cut it and doesn't and leaves him down 9. The fake punts, a whole lot of, those cutting edge analytical conversations. And I think it's especially interesting because, the picture of the 90s Cowboys is you and Emmitt Smith just pounding the rock. And it's really, the sport has gone away from that so dramatically over the last 20 years. What's your perspective on it, and what's your idea of where this is going, and I guess what this analytical revolution looks like in the sport right now?
I know what's happened in baseball, and I know it's making its way into hockey. I'm sure it's there in basketball as well. But I always felt because football was 11 on 11. That was always a little bit different. But I've been told by the people that do analytics that they're using it in soccer now as well, and that's 11 on 11. But to me, it's a different functioning 11 players on the field. Soccer is space. Football is becoming a little bit of space, but we're still tight, and we still really rely on the players next to us to help us out. So I've always felt it was a heart and hustle, type sport, and where does analytics have a place in that? And the more you talk to people, it's more of a guide. And, Dan Quinn has a good line. He says it's on tap, but it's not on top. It's not the first thing I go to, but it's part of my decision-making process. And I think if you can stay there, I think you could use it to your advantage. I think it gives you a guide in certain situations, but then you also have to think about how are we playing right now at this moment? And the coaches and the decision makers that can take the analytics. And, my favorite thing last week, kind of going through this whole process, is, analytics are mathematics in a vacuum. It's just what the numbers say. Now you've got to apply that to a real life situation. Well, how are we performing on 4th and 3 today, or 4th and 4 today? When you heard Mike McCarthy talk about why did you go for it on the first touchdown, trying to get back in a 2-possession game, because I want to know if the rest of the game is it a 2-possession game still, or am I down to a 1-possession game? I don't want to find that out with 45 seconds to go and have to go back and do exactly what they did, execute an onside kick and then go down the field. So I think it probably played out exactly how he would have liked it to, having not made the 2-point conversion, but it gave him the time to do the things he had to do to be able to steal a victory at the end of that game. And I think that we're starting to see coaches talk more about the whole process, and we're starting to understand that process a little bit more. But I think everybody you hear say it's a guide, but now I've got to take in the real-time data of what we're doing that day. If we're 0 for 4 on 3rd and shorts, I'm not going for it on 4th and short. So, if you can take that data from the afternoon and apply it to what the numbers are saying, hopefully you come out with a much sounder decision.
So, Daryl, you are known for being one of the ultimate best fullbacks who have ever played the game. I'd love to get your thoughts on Antoine Woods, how the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff this year is using him. I think he's coming for your game. What are your thoughts on that?
I always laugh when they put big defensive linemen at the fullback position, because a defensive lineman is 6 inches from the offensive guard, and that's the collision. When you're a fullback, you're 7 yards from the guy. It's a completely different thing. And I always see these big 300-pounders come roaring up into the line of scrimmage, and then it's there's this, it's so foreign to everybody. I always. It's not as easy as everybody thinks. It's a mentality. There's not a technique to it. It's more mentality. So you've got to find somebody with the mentality. Go, hey, I'm going to line you up 7 yards away from this guy, and I want you to run full steam right into him. And that's something that takes a little while to get comfortable with. And for a defensive lineman, especially who really his contact happens in a space of about 10 to 12 inches, to now separate him by 5 to 7 yards, and now still have that collision. The hands don't work. There is no hand placement. There is no leverage. It's just, I'm going to try and move you, and I'm going to try and stop you. So, we have them in a couple of weeks, and that's the thing that I miss about this season is, we do our production meetings and we have to have a relatively small list to talk to people, but we could always go on the field on game day, and I could go up to Antoine Woods and go, hey, nice job. He goes, let me give you a few tips. Let me know what you think. How do you like it? How different is that for you to do? And have a little bit of fun with it, but we just don't have the opportunity to do that this year. So that would have been a great thing for us to talk about, because we do have Cleveland versus Dallas in 2 weeks. So we could have updated that a little bit at that time.
Well, we look forward to that. And thank you so much for hopping on with us.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Enjoy the conversation. Take care.
So obviously there were a lot of marquee moments coming out of this Dallas Cowboys game here in week 2, but there were also a lot of memeable moments around the NFL. We're breaking down all of those coming up next.
What's up, guys? I'm Ember Garcia, and just want to invite you to check out Cowboys Break every day at 11:30 a.m. You got the boss man, Derek Eagleton. You got Nick Eman with the storytelling If These Walls Could Talk. You got David Hellman, our local LSU homer and eyebrow rubber. And then you got me, who just calls it as it is. So make sure to check us out at 11:30 a.m. on all Dallas Cowboys platforms.
When we sat down over the summer to talk about doing this show, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be able to talk about analytics with Daryl Moose Johnston, but now I want to talk about memes. And so that's what we're going to do, Kels, because obviously when you win a game like that, you're going to have some ridiculous moments. None more so than Everson Griffen providing the new reaction GIF for all of Cowboys Nation.
It's perfect. It's literally going to be in my favorites forever and ever. Amen. Could you more perfectly encapsulate the emotions coming out of that win? No is the answer. Like,
why do I feel like you're going to be texting me this for the rest of our friendship, like all the time? Can you tell Everson Griffen grew up a Cowboy fan? I just feel like that is the face of a man who is just a little bit more excited from a lifetime of rooting for the Cowboys. All right, Caden. No, because we need to do this. We need to get on to this. I'm sorry to cut you off. This is important.
No, you're not cutting me off. I was trying to remember what we were going to go to next, but I do remember because it was the Cowboy hat.
Exactly.
Obviously, Dak Prescott had the greatest game ever. We said it earlier in the show, breaking records. But Takk McKinley, a guy who was maybe going to be a Cowboy, went ahead and dressed the part. Who wore it better?
I'm insulted that that's a question because no, Takk McKinley looks like a dude from California who's trying to guess like what he thinks a Texan dresses like. And Dak Prescott is like, no, this is what somebody from Texas looks like. Like, my man on the right looks like a damn Texas Ranger, and Takk McKinley looks like Woody from Toy Story. It's not even close. And I find it fitting as hell that Dak rocked the hell out of this hat like 3 days after we did a Who Wore It Better segment on this very show. So,
yeah,
way to go, Dakota.
Of course. And I, of course, had to ask Wade Bowen himself. He reaffirmed my statement. It was indeed the Cowboy hat that really took Dak's game over the edge. So you're welcome. I'm not saying that we here at the Star at Night would have influenced the outcome of the game, but we definitely influenced the outcome of the game. You're welcome for this content. Dave, there was another good one that came out here from the interwebs. Mike Evans. Oh, wait. Nope. Josh Allen. Josh Allen.
Read the rundown, Kelsey. We go over this for a reason. Look at, like, Josh Allen. My God. I mean, hey, the Bills are off to a badass start. But I'm not convinced that Josh Allen isn't just the best tight end in the NFL. Like, he looks like Zeke right here, to be honest with you. And like I said, like, I know the Bills are off to a hot start, but, like, I don't know. When your primary highlights are in the open field, I'm just not convinced.
Let me just say this. He is my fantasy quarterback, and while this definitely wasn't a touchdown, it was incredible, and he was racking up points, and my phone was going nutso yesterday. And I was like, what is Josh Allen doing besides winning everything?
He's an amazing fantasy quarterback because he can do stuff like that, and because he's good for like 6 rushing touchdowns a season, but I would prefer to see more highlights of the ball in the air. That's just me.
Hey, listen, props to him. He was really, truly channeling Zeke. I have to give him that. Carrying those guys down the field. All right, now you got it. This literally, I love this so much. I saw this and I was like, oh, wow, that's so sweet. Sending a message to his family at home. Psych.
No, he's honestly, he's still sending a nice message. He is acknowledging he's a good husband. He lets his wife call the shots. He says, I love it when my wife lets me play video games. There's nothing wrong with that. He knows that it's not up to him, which is that is the mark of a successful marriage, is when the man acknowledges that it's not up to him. So good on you, Mike Evans.
Happy wife, happy life.
Video games. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Listen, they are cliches for a reason because they are true. Last, but most certainly not least. What are you doing, Bill? What are you doing?
My man looks like a plague doctor. He looks like, like the people in old-timey Italy that had the beaks, the beak masks.
It doesn't even cover his entire face.
Because he's wearing it upside down. Actually, I have a serious point to make about this. I know it's all jokey jokes. We're having fun here, but I'm sorry. All these guys are COVID tested. Everybody on the sideline is supposed to be safe. just let them take the mask off because they look ridiculous. Like, if you're not going to bother to wear it properly, just take it off. You've all been tested. It's fine. Like, if everybody's going to wear it the right way, then that's great, but that's not happening. So just stop. Like, we know that they're following the protocols. I don't have a problem if they take it off. Although I do, I mean, I love the Bill Belichick, like, Renaissance 16th century throwback. It's funny, but it seems pointless.
I am definitely here for the content it creates. I'll say that. Watching all these coaches, like, half, like, wearing their masks and, like, we don't – the struggle – listen, I'm pro-mask for sure, but it's definitely been interesting watching them try to navigate this NFL experience during
if they
COVID
do this
times.
If they do this for 16 weeks, somebody will screw it up every week. There's no doubt in my mind.
100%. 100%. All right, guys. So hope you guys enjoyed the show. That's what we've got for you all this day. We are back on Wednesday. Dave,
we're just as wheels off as the 40-39 game that we just covered. Like, and I'm here for it. It's been a long 24 hours. It's fine.
You don't come for this show for just, the super buttoned up X's and O's. That's not our brand. And we're not going to start now.
You're wrong. Yeah, if you did, you're wrong. So
you must be lost. But we enjoyed hanging out with y'all. Come back and hang out with us again on Wednesday. For David Hellman, I'm Kelsey Charles. This has been The Star at Night.